I didn't. All right, let's call the meeting to order. Good morning. It's 8:35 on Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. And this is the meeting of the Sandpoint Arts, Culture and Historical Preservation Commission, and it is now called to order. So as far as roll call, for the record, I am Chairwoman Ellie Sussness, presiding at City of Sandpoint Council Chambers, 1123 Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. The commission members who are present or absent are Barry Burgess is absent. Hannah Combs is here. Karen Wiedemeyer is here. Caitlin Shook is here. Keely Gray is not here, but she's on her way.
Oh, she's just arriving.
Just arriving. Mike Lisco is, who's usually on Zoom, is absent today. Rick Decker is here. Woody Sherwood is here, and of course, Heather Upton is here. So we will now proceed with the approval of the minutes from the commission's last meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from May 9th, 2023 meeting. May I have that motion? I move to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Thank you, Rick. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Onward to 4A, which is the financial report. The downtown budget is $157,455.58. And the northern budget for Sarah is $87,446.03. The remaining balance on the silver box is $5,100 and some change. Is there any questions on that? All right, moving on. 5A, our guest speaker today is the Carousel of Smiles. Welcome.
So while Clay's getting up, I'm just gonna do a little question. So carousel horses are an amazing history, and one of the things that I think is really fascinating is they have two sides. Does anybody know what the two sides of the carousel horse are? Oh, inside and outside. This is an outside row horse.
USB, I don't know, that's what it is.
Observation. And the outside row, outside of the horse is called the romance side. So that's the pretty side. It's the side that is the most fancy, has the most carving. It's to attract people that are standing there and watching the carousel. Things kind of right. And so the other side is not as fancy chickadee on the side. And this is called the money side, because they've already got your money once you get on that side. This is kind of a fun bit of history about the horse. This is an outside row horse. She's our wedding pony. Her name is Ruby Rose. And we chose these colors because we thought that would be nice with wedding attire. So if people come to the carousel and get married, thank you so much for having us here today. We're super excited to give our presentation about the Carousel of Smiles. Technology is already a little bit of a problem.
Is it all horses?
It is all horses. This is an Alan Hershey carousel. Typically he carved by horse machines. He was also part of the.
Yeah.
What do you just this?
Well, it's an HDMI cable, which is plugged in her, but if I unplug it
This is all horses.
Why don't
It's 3D.
I'm
here, I don't
not-
think she can share. I have
Why
to plug
don't
it for a
I,
computer.
I'll
No,
run it on my computer. Is it just on?
Well, I have
your-
to. Are you sharing them?
Yeah, I'm on Zoom right now.
I
so
mean,
can
can I
share my
unplug it for
screen.
her? Does she need to
No,
have?
she
it?
needs to have it, so we can use my computer.
Well,
So could I run it for
Yeah.
you?
yeah, they're just.
Well, it involves a lot of clicking. It'd be a little hard. Can I just come over and?
Yeah.
do the clicking
They're
from your computer?
Absolutely.
This carousel didn't come with a machine. It didn't ever, we never had one. A lot of carousels add them, because it's.
Yeah.
We haven't decided yet whether we'll put a brass ring machine on this carousel or not. It does create more wear, especially on the outside overseas, as you're leaning over, it tends to create a lot more wear on this right area.
And you have USB here.
But it is fun, so I don't know, I don't even decided yet.
And then
The
which
carousel
one is
in
that?
Missoula was also sparked from the same tragedy, as you'll learn about that this carousel came from. The carousel in Butte, Montana burned. That's where I grew up, and that's what provoked this whole thing for me. It's like, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but the carousel in Missoula, Chuck Kaparich was the person that really started that project. And he was a Butte boy and affected by that carousel that was burned. And so he said, I'm gonna create a carousel for Missoula, and that's what they did, which is really amazing. That's all new
There's a
animals.
way to
Those
play
those
on
were
it, just to
carved
get
in
it
the
in the full
90s.
screen, is that correct?
So they're all newly carved animals. This carousel is very much like the carousel in Butte. That too was an Allen Herschel carousel, same vintage. You see a lot of the same horses in those old pictures that you'll see on this carousel. So kind of cool that it's the same.
So are you ready to go ahead and
Yeah.
start sharing? Okay, let me see here. Sorry, everybody, we're like typical tech problems. I think it's like, I always say a technological ghost.
For screen, for computer.
We know how to pivot though, so here we go.
Yeah, play on that.
Okay. Let me look at the screen.
And typically, this presentation is really slide heavy. And typically Clay and I kind of go back and forth on when we go through the slides and give the presentation, but since we're kind of short on time, I think I'll let him just kind of move through it, and then I'm here to answer any questions or whatever.
Let me just do it then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So our story is really about how you collaborate with dreams, ideas, creating momentum to achieve a desired result. And this particular project also has the ability to bring the past to the present, one ride at a time. We have lots of connected tidbits of history that are a lot of fun that we will be exploring and always make available. This thing is up and running. So it starts for us as a dream. It's sparked by a tragedy. We add the mayor's vision and other people's visions for the city of Sandpoint, starting with the City Beach Master Plan. And when we 4-6 years later, whatever we are now, this is kind of what it's very haltingly on the screen, but this is what we've come up with, and we'll. My screen, it goes very smoothly.
So, Clay, you're part of the design competition. You've had briefings with the design teams about your concept and.
Well, yeah, we're a very peripheral part of it. We were, didn't know what was going on until we read about it in the paper. But then, working with Justin, we got the carousel to be in the manual, half page at least to be considered. And we did have the opportunity to make a presentation to the three design teams that were here back in April. And then, and so they have a pretty good awareness of what the carousel is. That presentation was more based on the needs and what it can do rather than on the artistry of the carousel, since they're designing spaces. So our story really begins in 1973, where Reno grew up in Butte, Montana, and she grew up going to the Columbia Gardens with its magic and its carousel. There's a whole bit of history on the Columbia Gardens that is something we can weave in. And in November 73, the whole place burned down mysteriously, including the carousel. And it was pretty devastating to her as a girl of 12. But this is what sparked this whole project. It sparked in her, this is really Reno's project. We are just tying on to her vision, her passion, and she's corralling a whole lot of cats and artists and everybody else into this thing. And I can attest she never let go of that dream. Our second date in 97 was on a carousel.
Oh.
This tragedy also sparked two other carousel projects, the carousel in Missoula and another one in Butte, another tidbits of history that really connect. In 2000, by sheer happenstance, we heard about a forgotten carousel that had last operated at a fair in Kansas City and had been stored in 2 trailers in a sheep farm outside of Kansas City since 1952. So based on just a few photos, we said, well, what the heck, we gotta save this thing, because at that time, it was not expected there would be any carousels left to be found. If they were, they would be rotting away in a field somewhere. So we did make a deal before it went to auction, and we moved it in its Lowboy Trails' barn in New York State, where it stayed for another 16 years. The question of now what do we do came up quite a lot. And fortunately, there's an association called the National Carousel Association that we found out about and joined and got a ton of information and been working with them ever since. And out of that, we really, when you talk about preserving a carousel for a community, it's not just a carousel, it's not just a ride. They were never intended to be just an isolated ride. And so it really has to do with what can a carousel do for its community. And we have lots of projects that have gone, not lots, not that many, but it's more than, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're taking ideas from other projects. So that's an important concept that has carried us since we had it. In 2016, the city announced the master plan. Having been a developer, there's certain aspects of what a master plan means that was exciting to us. And with the idea of really, the goal was to develop the underutilized gym with Sandpoint, get some year-round activity. So we met with the mayor in September 2016. And again, there it is. Get the public involved, get them to consider, get them excited by this project. That was a mandate we knew we had to do, and hearing from the mayor, that was kind of our initial mission. So in that October 16, the ponies left the barn, loaded them up on the lowboy trailers, and sent them across country to Sandpoint. And we started our first event. The ponies were coming, where we decided to unload this thing for the first time in 64 years, because we had never unloaded it. The ponies had been unloaded by the previous Americana collector, but we hadn't taken anything out of the trailers. And it was a pretty fun event where we opened the doors and took the ponies out one by one, had lots of people kicking around there enjoying it. And it was really a very special, magical moment. First time we actually saw everything that was there. The herd was free. Again, the first time we didn't know there were jeweled horses. We were able to get in the trailer, but they were packed, right next to each other. So we didn't really have an idea of what we had. And that was pretty exciting. And all the parts.
Didn't know at that moment what type of carousel it was. We had it for 16 years, but didn't know really what the carousel was. What,
Yeah, we knew it was an Alan Herschel Spellman, in that same, but Reno was correct. We didn't really know, and neither did the experts, just by looking at photos. So, and to see all the parts lying around the floor was pretty exciting. We didn't know we had chariots, for instance, so we unloaded the thing. These rounding board shields and these interior panels with wonderful paintings. And here's the sign that says, this is what this carousel is. It's an Alan Herschel carousel. So due to abandonment, fire, collectible craze that started in the 70s, there used to be 4,000 to 6,000 of these things made in the golden age, and they're about 160. And we have one that's intact with its original mechanism and animals, which is also considerably rare.
even more rare. There are about 25 of those left.
So what is a golden age carousel? Well, it refers to the ones hand created between the 1890s and 1920s, largely by immigrant businessmen and master carvers. These are some of the names of prominent names, and a whole host of immigrant craftsmen. And there are, quite a bit of historical photos, and we certainly, that's a big part of what this whole project is. And here's a gentleman. He actually is reasonably well known. We've uncovered some information about him. He was a carousel carver artist. He did some specific stuff on our carousel, we found out, and he went on to design the stealth X1A thing with Bell Aircraft. So quite an interesting character, personality in his own right. Those are some of the tidbits that we get to share as part of the historical aspect of it. So it's really kind of a time when the Industrial Revolution coalesced with our immigrant craftsmen. They met the optimistic American spirit, the abundant resources here, and their creativity was completely unleashed. And that's how we created some of these amazing things. Here's one in New York City that's been restored. Near and around where we are, here's the Louvre in Spokane. Hopefully most of you have seen that one, a fantastic 1908 carousel in a pretty interesting building. Coeur d'Alene carousel, a small child's carousel, but it is returned back to where it was. It used to be on the Playland Pier, much smaller than ours, different project, but still a nice machine. A little further afield, the Kennewick, Washington carousel, new mechanism, but an incredible collection of horses. And there's one of them, beautifully painted and restored. Over in Oregon, we've been working with the Albany Historic Carousel and Museum. We do a lot of collaboration in the Northwest. Oaks Park in Portland, an amazing machine. We probably will be doing some restoration work for them as they need to start getting a full restoration on their animals and their mechanism. The Jansen Beach, another amazing carousel in Portland, Oregon, that's currently in stores looking for a home. And in Washington, the Woodland Park Zoo Carousel, an amazing story, not just for the carousel, but how it worked with the zoo and the, you know, the process of getting that going. So why all the fuss of this? Well, they're pretty magical. This is an amazing quote by someone who's been involved in carousels, not only for all of his life, but his parents' life as well. And it really sums it up. And of course, creating smiles. That's why we're doing all this. In 2017, we did the next big event, the unveiling event at the fairgrounds, where we actually assembled it for the first time. And
Did any of you come to that event?
no, this was a really magical time. There's nice music that goes on here, but we're not doing the audio. This was important not only to get the public really enthused, and for them to understand what the size and scope of this thing is, but for us to actually put it together and see how it works, because we haven't done that before. And so it is a 40 feet in diameter, 14 sections called sweeps, 36 horses, 2 chariots, with all the 14 sections of rounding board shields and interior art panels. And not too long after that, someone sent us a catalog picture confirming this is an Allen Herschel #2 special, 3 abreast. It's nice to have those historical documents, which we have access to. 2008, we really did the restoration, and we started the restoration. We're doing with 3 named groups. This is really the magic. So we start with the gear and grease gang, which started when we had to assemble it because we had to go through the bearings, really ugly looking bearings, and get them before you put it together. And then we assembled it. And it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle.
We didn't have direction.
And the mechanism was some pretty big, ugly pieces, pretty heavy, not quite the, you know, it is a level of artistry, but a little different than the artistry you see on the ponies. And we have quite a few businesses, local businesses that are helping with that. It's a little different. We're a little more business centric, a few individuals, whereas the ponies and the woodworking are more individuals working on it. But a lot of community support, and it's really exciting to see some businesses that you would never think would be involved in an art cultural project to be super excited by this. That's a lot of fun. The horse restoration, the wood restoration starts with what we call the Godfather Squad, and that's because in the process we take all the heads off. I did a presentation at the high school not too long ago, and none of the kids understood that. We started by, well, Reno and I had done a lot of work in that year, in the preceding lots of years to understand how you go about restoring this. So we came back and we did woodwork restoration workshops to get an idea of who actually could do this without cutting fingers off. So this is the process. We take them apart, we remove all the nails, we fix the joints using dowels and epoxy glues, we fix all the cracks, and then we get into, you know, we have some specialty like the dentist, you know, he creates a few, sometimes the teeth are missing. We don't have a lot of parts we have to replace, but we have a few. And then we get to the micro finishing, which is more like an automotive process. After it's primed, we fix all the little dings and dents and stuff you couldn't see before. And then we turn it over to the painters. Reno, do you want to do this? You want to do?
Sure. So we have basically 4 stages of restoration. Clay's already gone through the first couple of stages, but the micro finishing is probably one of the big ones, and we have to micro finish to get a nice smooth coat. The wood is pretty rough, so. Betty Largent, the woman that you see in the foreground there in the chambray shirt, she we saw one of her quotes earlier. And she's from the Spokane Carousel. She was the curator there for 30+ years. She was also the president of the National Carousel Association for many years. We're really lucky to have her in our backyard. And she came over and taught us the painting techniques that you need to have for restored carousel. That's one of the saddle techniques that we're using. We use plastic bed, not on this one, but on that one. Constant learning. What we learned back then, we know so much more today. And our painting is accomplished with a collaborative approach. It's a really unusual way to do carousel restoration. In fact, in all the carousels that I've talked to, we're the only carousel that I know that's doing a collaborative approach. Most carousels come into a place and they're done by one or two people. We're doing it with a host of volunteers. And some of them have individual specialties. This woman was just amazing with the mouths and the teeth. She just could paint the teeth so they looked almost real. This is another artist that has sort of a special technique. She loves detail painting. She's an illuminated manuscript artist, if you can imagine that. And her detail is just beautiful. This is a master layout and color wheel. It helps me to know where the horses are. There's a specific way that our eye likes to look at carousels as they're moving. It likes to look at color from light to dark. It makes it easier to look at. I also want to see continuity of color through the rows. And so all the rows, like this horse and the other two that'll be riding with it on the row, will be in this color palette. They'll be cream colored horses with these colors. The color process evolves. Sometimes we put color on a horse and we're just not happy with how it looks, and it'll go through several color iterations before we get to the place where we think it looks right. That horse is finished now. That's more of the detail painting that you saw done by that artist before. More color iterations. We oftentimes start with line drawings and put different colors into the trappings, and that's what we ended up as an almost finished color palette on that. Just some more of the detail painting. This horse is kind of fun because it's got some other like on its blanket. More of the color iterations and the detail. Ruby Rose, we sort of highlighted her. I think what the artists are doing with the eyes is just incredible. So there's the first 18. We now have 22 in paint. Kind of fun to see.
We'll be, by the end of this year, we'll have 30 in process. They won't be completed, but we'll have 30 done through the wood. We started very soon.
Again, talking about collaboration, the carousel in Kennewick came to us and they had carved a new rabbit for their carousel. They have a few new animals carved on their carousel. The painter that was working on this rabbit couldn't finish the painting on it. And so she called me and said, can you help us? Can you help finish the painting? And so we did. Incredibly honored to be asked to be a part of that. And it turned out beautiful. It just was a really, really beautiful thing to be a part of.
So some of the other stuff that we're doing, this is an 88 chariot. We're going to put an 88 chariot on here, and rather than cutting one of our two double chariots down or making one from scratch, we were donated this single panel original chariot panel. That's what's on the left, and we've turned that in. At least the facade panel is complete, and that's it on the right. So we're going to have an 88 compatible chariot on, which is really cool, and it's going to basically be an historic chariot. Another little bit, these are some of the other aspects of the carousel. Up above on the carousel, on the rounding boards of these shields that lock it all together. Well, these were actually originally carved by that gentleman I showed you before, Ward Oliver. He had a passion for Western art and Greek mythology. So this is his version of the Greek four winds, using Northern Viking, Southern Belle, Eastern Prince, and Western Indian. And this is what they look like when they came out of the trailers. We did a full restoration on the panels. The faces are actually cast metal, as are the scroll pieces. And this is what they're looking like now. And so we're doing a little bit of a departure from most carousels. They would take all the Southern Bells and paint them the same. And we're mixing them up. So each of these faces, even though there are only 4 castings, each of these 4 faces are all different, all taken by an artist and painted and together. So it's a really fun, exciting bit, and a way to bring in some Greek history into the whole thing. Another thing that was very surprising to us is when we opened these boxes of interior art panels, they were signed. You never see carousel art that's signed. It turns out that carousel had a full refresh in the 40s. We've been able to figure that out. And these were redone by L. Wagner Davis, who's got a significant pedigree before she passed away. So these are a bunch of the paintings. Here she is, and her company is there, Flint Hill Studio. Some of the connective history, these are her parents, very well-known, famous tattooed man and woman tattoo artists in their own right. Her mother, Maud Adams. If you Google women tattoo artists, she pops up first pages on covers of books. These are very well-known people, and as is she in that tattoo world. So those are some of the connections we have. This particular project has also taken us coast to coast. South Street Seaport Museum has her father's sketchbook, tattoo designs and tattoo stuff. We're working with them on a collaborative exhibit. It'll be years down the line. But where they use his stuff and the daughter's stuff, the panels, and it's a fun, gonna be a fun process. It's a painstaking process to restore those things. It has to be done professionally, otherwise you can totally ruin them very easily. So far, we've gotten 4 of those done. 2 panels are on exhibit of the Albany Historic Museum in Albany, Oregon. Another 2 panels will go on exhibit later this year at the Bristol, Connecticut Carousel Museum. So it's a way of kind of connecting Sandpoint and our project to a lot of different places. Those are the panels on the inside there. And instead of them going back on the carousel, we are asking artists to paint inspired ideas of North Idaho. And we are remaking the frames. And we are keeping that as a rotating curatable art exhibition space. And that has lots of fun ideas, basically themed exhibits, anything we can imagine. We'll be asking your ideas when it becomes appropriate. This is a really fun aspect, and I can tell you no other carousel in the country is doing this. And they're like, "Oh, that's a really cool idea." So when this thing is restored, it will be an important part of the National Collection of Saved Golden Age Carousel. It's already there. It's already on the census or whatever. We're just not operational. So it's actually in the carousel world. It's kind of a big deal. We've had over 50 volunteers pretty actively involved, and I know it's over 20,000 hours. This will be $1 million+ restoration by the time we're done. Uta Gertzen, when she was part of the Idaho Commission of the Arts, said this could be the largest art project in the state of Idaho. Kind of cool. So after restoration, this is where we come to an evolving process of location. So we started in 2017-18 with our Imagine campaign. Took the existing building, did a little Photoshop, dropped into the building on there and tried to get people revved up with the idea that the city beach is a pretty cool place. Here's just to get some perspective. It doesn't overwhelm the beach. This is a particular idea where it could combine with that existing building and you have a multi-use facility in a single building. That didn't end up resonating very well, but you know, it was the initial idea. The skating has been a long time dream by people for decades here. So we should be able to figure that out at some point. The City Parks Master Plan, it grew from a city beach to a city parks plan, finally launched in April of 2019, concluded and adopted in September 20. We ended up having 2 locations in there. In December of 2020, we gave actually our first presentation to the City Council and basically said, you know, it's a public-private partnership. We are not expecting to use, are we running out of time?
Unfortunately,
Okay.
I could be like soaking this in for hours because it is such
Yeah.
an amazing story.
There's
And
just a lot of information to.
It is,
digest.
yeah.
Just tell us.
I think this is a good stopping
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
So we can say that this is the introduction to like this amazing art piece, this amazing historical piece.
2 more slides.
And then,
And then we'll go. So where we work with the administrator was to go to the Sand Creek side, not the City Beach side. And that's where the old hotel is, and that's what we worked on. That's what the designs are. That's what we presented to the design challenge group. And we'll see. Right now, we're kind of on hold. We're a little bit back to a conceptual idea. We've done a lot of work on our own there, but we'll see what they come up with. And
We're
whenever
super
that
excited to see
comes
what
out,
they.
we'll see
what they
what
come up
happens. So
it's, we just so appreciate you guys coming and you're certainly like glowing and I love, every time
what we
think
really
it's
wanted to do is to give you a little bit of a tidbit,
Yeah.
invite you to come by the studio collectively, individually at any time. We have a studio and a shop. That's where all this stuff is
are there
happening.
certain hours that you're open?
No, just call us.
Yeah,
Call us.
I mean, we're
and,
almost always there. We are closed for June because we're just so busy, but
Okay.
Wednesdays and Saturdays from 10 to 2.
Okay.
And then if you need to come in at another time, just call me, because I live in town. It's easy to come over, be here, girls, but. So I can-
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, certainly, I'll circulate your contact information. Would that be the best
That's
way?
fine.
To the group and,
I think I have some business cards with
We
me.
can.
oh, that'd be fabulous. And thank you so much for taking the time to share and bring her. She's such a star.
We're gonna stay and listen to some of your other updates if we want to.
Okay.
Please go ahead Your meeting.
And I hate to even cut you guys off. We just have a hard stop because we have another meeting backing us up.
And I just want to say, I love the collaborative idea behind all of this. That is so magical, actually.
It's amazing, and working with all these artists.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It's amazing.
All right, thank you so much. All right, let's move on to 6A, the NEA ARP subgrant program. Heather's got an update.
Yes, so I'm so excited to announce that all of the 8 organizations have closed out through the semi-annual process. I shouldn't say closed out, they've completed their semi-annual reports. All of the organizations, except for 2, have decided to close out during that period of time. And then we have 2 more that are going to be doing a closeout report that will be due at the end of July. And all of the reports went into a check run, and so they should be, and that was approved, so they should be receiving checks soon. So they'll see the fruits of their labor with that report shortly. So that's that.
Very good. Is there any questions on that?
And I have to mention, we're gonna plug a moment here. The carousel was one of the recipients of the NEA grant. So we
Yes,
were
thank you.
super, yay! Product shown. We were able to help support you guys through that.
Thank you. We're
Very appreciative.
incredibly grateful.
It was fun to learn all about your organization through that process as well. Could you get me back on it now?
All right.
To what? I'm always zooming in.
Technical difficulty.
Oh, God. One of those tech mornings. Will you look through my email? And then we can keep going.
All right, let's head on to 6B then, the Idaho Commerce Gem Grant. Another update.
So I'm again happy to report that again, this is to help support the Panda's roof to be replaced. It was a commerce grant, and we were able to get our signature signed on the commerce's document. The Canada has signed our sub-grant agreement, and they've provided us with all of the paperwork and everything that we needed. And so they have the green light to proceed with going forward with the project. So it's a huge win. We're so excited to be supporting them with this. So that's awful.
Thanks for your hard work on that. I know that was a lot. All right, onward to 6C, the commission project teams.
Okay. I'll let you know. So, yes, we're just getting here. Oh no, am I not connected to Zoom? I'm sorry, guys. So, things are moving along really well. The 2 things that I wanted to highlight for that, we're gonna talk about what we've been working on in the historic preservation work team. But Keely, why don't you give a highlight of what we did yesterday?
Yeah, we had our first, we gathered some volunteers who were interested in being tour guides for the historic tours downtown. And we had our first of 2 kind of like training sessions, which was really great. It was so hot, but we survived and found shade as much as we could. But it was really great because Heather got to kind of be tour guide as well as kind of share with us like her expertise on how to give a tour, how to be personable, and how really to kind of guide these tours along in our downtown area. And so Hannah was there as well, and she and Heather are going to work together on kind of updating some of the little tidbits that were really juicy that weren't necessarily in the pamphlet. And then I'm actually going to try and navigate the tour a little differently because the way that they had them on the numbers was kind of like here, there, everywhere. So we kind of want it to be nice and circular and easy to do. So it was really fun. And our next one, if anybody wants to join us, our next one is going to be Tuesday at 8 a.m. in front of the Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
I think I can make that.
Oh, fabulous. So I think Keely, you're gonna help with kind of being a volunteer coordinator for this one. And the beauty and the synergy with this new tour is the idea that we're adding arts by adding our local actor community, actor and actresses. Is that the appropriate way to say it? Theater community,
Our performing arts.
performing arts community, and giving that flavor to our signature historic tour. So we're all super excited about it. And the goal would be if we could have 4 local community members that are fully trained and 4 of us on the commission that are fully trained. That would be the sweet spot. And right now we are scheduled through Parks and Rec engagement to give a tour on the last Friday of every month, June through September. The tours are going to last for about an hour. I'll keep you all posted with links so you can share all that information. And so that will be our consistent tour, and we're kind of testing the waters, but we also want to be ready to give a pop-up tour if the appropriate occasion comes about. And I know everybody at the city, the staff is so excited to be led on one of these tours, and so they could be certainly our first test pilot. So that's kind of where we are with our signature historic walking tours. And then the other large project that we've all been working on in the historic preservation work team, again, there's 4 of us, and that's the size for that work, what we can do to avoid violating open meeting law. And we meet every Monday at 9 o'clock, and we're working on a pattern book. So today is the big reveal for this. Which one would you like me to share?
I think that first one.
This one. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna have some of our team join in on commentary for this one. But here we go. Ta-da. So when we think about historic residential in accordance to our master plan, it primarily focuses on education and advocacy. Trying to have restrictions on residential, I don't think would necessarily be a good fit for our community. And so I remember back, I was on Historic Preservation Commission for 2 terms, so that's 6 years. I always believed that if we could give developers, homeowners, the tools to be able to understand historic renovation and the history of their building, they will be much more inclined to do a rehabilitation or renovation. And again, it's that seed of inspiration and knowledge. And so our team decided that the best way to implement some of the actions in our master plan with residential would be to create a pattern book. And there's about 4 to 5 different main historic vernacular styles in our community. And we really wanted to launch our product quickly. So we've decided to start our first draft on the bungalow style, which is most prevalent between the 1900s and the 1930s. And it's a very fluid style. So you can see this style throughout all of the neighborhood, throughout many of the neighborhoods in different variations. And this is just a rough draft. And in fact, we have a working copy that we've developed furthermore, but we just wanted to be able to show you this, especially because the State Historic Preservation Office is coming on the 21st, and we'll be sharing a more updated version with them. But we wanted to showcase all the work that we've been doing. So we start off with the Sandpoint history, just a general overview. And then we go into the heart of the historic residential vernacular. And you can see we have some notes on here. And then we go even further with the pattern book for this particular style, which would be the bungalow. And you can see some of the notes. We're talking about adding photos, which help the viewer understand prairie, Spanish, craftsman, eclectic. We've also landed on the fact that we're going to spread out our text a little bit and add more historical photos, national like advertising photos for that style from like the Aladdin catalog, which were these kit homes. and make it a little bit more visually inclined. And then we do a little bit more of a intimate history on the bungalows. Here, there's a couple of examples. We're all going to go out as a team and be photographing many examples of bungalows. So we have a really nice updated repository of photos. And then we're doing a deeper dive into the history of a family that would have resided in one of these bungalows in Sandpoint. So the viewer can really kind of connect to that heartbeat of the community moment. And that's to come. And then we have attributes that we're highlighting that really talk about what makes the bungalow unique. And some interior kind of ticklers there. So this is where, in the last meeting, we've kind of decided to go into a new route and almost have two different documents. So we have the history of the bungalow and the definitions of bungalow, and then we're going to have a separate document that that supports the first. And this is going to be a deep dive into rehabilitation and preservation of a bungalow. And we believe that the more tools that we can give an individual, the finer product that will actually be out there in terms of a great example of preservation for a bungalow. And so that goes into expansion of this high level explanation. So paint, contrasting colors, where to paint on a bungalow, and then a definition of the different attributes of where we're talking about painting. So when we talk about a belly band, where is that on the house? So literally like a step-by-step guide to how to renovate and different suggestions, maybe even a suggestion of a color palette that works with, being in the Northwest. And we've talked about teaming up with designers, possibly in the community, that could suggest different color palettes. We'll certainly share historic color palettes that are around, different materials that can add texture, and just all sorts of suggestions. And we even have expressed the desire to add a page on how to navigate a renovation or rehabilitation through the city as well. So all of this is just going to be an exciting tool, again, back to education and advocacy for our community, that will be given out to anybody that's undergoing a current renovation or wants to know more just about the history of a bungalow. And we certainly can be partnering up with different organizations that can help provide this resource to the community as well. I organically see the museum being a partner, or even the chamber. It's something that could certainly be printed out and or emailed via PDF form. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about a grander vision under new business with the community enhancement grant in terms of the pattern book. So again, this is the bungalow, but we're talking about doing a craftsman as well. Team, what other, off the top of it, I think there's 5 different main historic styles. Mid-century, rancher. So what do y'all think?
Love it.
Awesome.
Well, I think another idea is get in contact with the local realtors,
Great idea.
whether they're selling or the people purchasing. Because it's extra marketing material for the sellers, but then when you're buying a place and you see the history of this and what I could do and how I could rehab it, that type of stuff. It's
a great idea.
just a straight shot, right?
Appreciate feedback.
Pursuing historic preservation requires so much initiative on the homeowner. Any concrete information we can provide them that will aid them in that process will make it that much more likely that they'll actually follow through with the project.
Absolutely. Not feel like they're totally alone in it.
Yeah, I like the simplified steps going through the city, because if it's right there, you know, it's not too daunting.
Right, and like start here, stop here, almost like a little puzzle, like a fun infographic. I want anyone to be able to pick this up. I would love my 8-year-old to be able, or he's 9 now, pick it up and know how to do it. You know, so it can really connect to a broad spectrum of individuals. And then this is, I think, a great inspiration for people that are looking to do infill as well with new build. I was just gonna pull up, and then Woody and Ellie, do you guys have anything to add? Any comments? Anything I missed?
I think it's been a lot of fun researching it and putting it together, and if, you know, people have as much fun reading it as we have had putting it together, I think it'll be fabulous. And being able to approach the city with concrete steps as far as how to go about things, I think is a huge barrier removed, because I think that it can be intimidating. So having something that spells it out, I think will be great.
And I've been sharing this with planning and zoning, and they're over the moon about it. And this pattern book really helps support a lot of the initiatives that they're working on with different plans for planning and zoning. And so it's fun to see how we're already positively impacting in creating resources for our city staff as well, as they're trying to move forward with their things. I'm just having quite a fun day with this technology thing. Things are popping up. So I wanted to go back to this preservation plan that we put together, and I'm sorry it's so small here. Here we go. There we go. So this is every single action plan out of our master plan. And as you can see on the right-hand side, we have our goals that the design competition is helping us with, which is primarily that commercial historic preservation ordinance change and so forth. But on the left-hand side, it talks a lot about surveys and what we need to do within those surveys. And what's beautiful about the pattern books is we're using the surveys to help supply us with information. So we're organically achieving 4.1, 4.6, and 4.8. And then on the back to the right-hand side, you have 5.7, 4.3. 4.3 is exactly what we're doing with this pattern book. And then 4.7, the digital technology, that's what we're going to talk about with the community enhancement grant. But through all of this, we hope that people will be so inspired that action 4.4, which is consider a neighborhood conservation district program, that will organically happen. And the conservation district, that is a neighborhood driven concept. So they come to us and they say, we want to do something. We want to really preserve our neighborhood together as neighbors. And so we can support them in that initiative. And I'm bringing this up too, and I can cycle this out through email because these are things that we really want to know intimately as we're working with the State Historic Preservation Office, and we have questions for them. And then back to the right-hand side, this is where like the what do you call it? The oyster is, the world is our oyster. It's too early in the morning. So we have action 2.3 and 5.4. This gets really exciting. Historic preservation rehabilitation competition and recognition program would be, I mean, that'd be so much fun to put together. We're also going to see a lot of like leadership come out of this, I think. So we can almost have our own Orchids and Onions awards. We can be recognizing local preservationists in our community. And there are some that we have so many, you know, and that we need to celebrate. And then from this, you know, we, again, looking at our plan as like a 5 to 10 year plan, then we continue on with our work of surveying other neighborhoods and capturing all that history. So I love how the pattern book is so impactful in accomplishing our goals within our plan.
I'd like to add a comment too, and that is, one of the things that we're trying to sort out through this thing is how do we develop a more appropriate ADU program and how it relates architecturally to the neighborhoods. And try and help develop some better senses of that. Probably most of you have been on Boyer Road and Boyer Street and seen that Boyer Avenue, where there's that new huge building that's an ADU going up. And it's kind of, you know, it's all in the eye of the beholder, but it's very big relative to the size of the original home and stuff in terms of the height and it's, and there's not the eaves and not to some of the traditional aspects of architecture that we sometimes expect in the community. And so we're trying to sort that out and see what we can do to try and put
It's,
that
it's
together.
that what if our pattern book can help planning and zoning with any plans that they're working on, exactly, and so, this is just a huge accomplishment, and, I really, it's been such an amazing thing working with all of you, and I'm learning so much. And I'm also like, I have my personal goals of becoming a architectural historian. But, we're just, you know, going out and really trying to understand, it's fun.
It is
It's
fun.
like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's quote unquote Kate McAllister.
Once you know, you can't unknow.
So, I almost, sometimes I have to pull over because now I'm like, oh, you know, just in the neighborhoods over here, like recognizing those bungalows and those historical styles and there, one thing that we have talked about at length is like, there's no pure style either, you know, it's there. And I think that's part of the evolving personality too of architecture and so forth.
Yep, it's been a great process so far, and I look forward to seeing it done, and I look forward to working on the next book, so. All right, any other questions? All right, let's head on to 6D, the Silver Box Program.
So, so you guys are all familiar with this is our art and loan program. So we're using the Call to Artist software. It's one of the largest ways to get out calls, and it's called Cafe. It was launched officially on the 1st of June, and I sent you all that link, so please feel free to distribute it however you want. I also connected with COAC to let them know what we're doing. I spoke at council, and I've been informed that press release is going out ASAP. So we look forward to that being shared. And so the wrap up will be on July 3rd. So that's officially 1 month for artists to be able to go and apply. And then we'll have 1 week to make our decision. And Ellie, please interject where you feel appropriate, but this is my first rodeo with this. So we decide on 3, and it will be our commission that will make the decision. And then we bring the recommendation to council.
Correct.
They approve it. And then artists have 2 weeks to get the agreement signed. And on my end, I've been making sure that legal's looked at it and that we're all green light and ready to go once that process happens. Because the last time was 2020. So we've had a little pause since we've done this program. So everything's been refreshed on an administrative side. And then artists will be able at that point, once the agreement's signed, to do the install on the plinths. There's the 3 of them again. And then their art will be up for a year, and it will be for sale, and it can be purchased at the end of the year loan. The city would get 10% if it is sold. And each artist will be receiving $1,000 to participate in the program if they are chosen. So I'm so sorry, you guys, that I'm like trained now to always go back to the master plan. But this program is so great because it does achieve so many of our goals for the art community in terms of building awareness, creating space opportunities for artists to show, helping support the for-profit sector of artists. So I think it's always good to go back to those goals and letting people know that we're firing them off. We're doing a really great job.
Will the review process be at our next group meeting or will it be a separate meeting?
Great question. We need to figure out those details.
Cause it will, I've never done it. How long would it usually take? Depending on how many applicants?
Depending on how many applications, yeah.
And it's nationally, open.
Right, well, and the other thing is we can, the thing about it is we probably can weed out the ones that aren't actually applicable pretty fast. And then,
Paper mache or-
you know, yeah, get down to the, you know, really good applications pretty fast. And with that small call, that's, I believe how we did it last time is just within the commission, not a separate selection committee, and it was very effective, so.
So we could hold it at the next commission meeting.
I think so.
Or have a special meeting depending on how
Depending on
many,
how
and it
many.
could be the whole group. Yeah. You're our expert.
I believe we'll be able to do it at our
Okay.
next meeting, but
We'll firm that up and then
Yeah.
get back to you all, but I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Selecting the.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be great.
it'll be fun to see what people have.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to 6E, the downtown waterfront design competition update.
So I've heard from a few people in the community that where are we? It's been a little silent, and from a publican, definitely, but know that work is being done on the back end. So I met as the technical advisor with all three teams, and each team had 4 hours. And in that meeting, I talked about our whole team, all of the technical team talked about epic fails. Great job, you're moving in the right direction, to try to help guide them in coming up with a great plan that helps, again, achieve all of the goals and the planning. And that's what this competition is about. Like, we love great ideas, but it truly is to help support the staff in implementing all of the actions in their master plan. And I personally want to let you all know that it was an amazing experience. I can't even imagine how we would do it without all of these experts. Each team is comprised of experts in every field. It's different firms that are amazing and so talented coming together to create a product. And to have it in a competition environment really kind of ups the ante. And in the end, we can, when I say we as the community, the product will be a plan, but it will have attributes from all three plans. And so there would be no way we could get such an incredible plan from just doing a straight RFP. So this is such a huge win. And I think because we are such a special community and we live in such a beautiful place, we're able to attract top talent to want to participate and do this for us. So I think you'll all be very excited about what comes out of this. So questions that I've had: when's the next public engagement moment? So I talked with Cassidy, who's working on the nuts and bolts of getting the document out. So as soon as she sends the document to me with the updated schedule, I'll send it out to all of you. But it will be the second week in August. So that will be the public engagement moment. It will last for 2 weeks. And that will be during the period that the jury will be reviewing this. And I know the jury is kind of a confusing pinch point for a lot of people in the community, but the why behind that is because these are the experts that can let us know if this plan is even viable. Because I'm telling you, there were some really high level creative ideas. And yes, like, we want to be open to that, but is it viable? You know, is the question. So it really needs to go through a strict review process, and that's what that jury is about. And because we don't want to have another plan that is not easy to implement. That's not the goal of this, right? So the jury will decide the winner on August 16th. Huge, right? So in terms of city progress, like this is like lightning speed. Yeah, and so much is going to be decided, and there, I can't even begin to tell you how comprehensive their work that they're having to do is, and all the different things that they're having to try to solve for us in this plan, and all the different stakeholders that they've worked with, and special groups such as the carousel that they've had special meetings with to try to understand and figure out things such as like placement, connectivity, access, design, you know, and how we can achieve kind of that overall amazing feel when you enter, you know, into Sandpoint, and in like the "you have arrived," where history and art and connectivity all come together to create that amazing experience for people that are out of town, but for locals who have been here their whole life. So it's goosebump moment.
Very exciting.
Yeah,
Is there-
I-
Go ahead,
just a
Cody.
quick comment. I mean, it's all very exciting, and, you know, I listened to a lot of the presentations that happened before they approved it and things like that, and so I think some of the push from the city council was, you know, get the public involved, and they adopted some of that, which is an important thing, we all know that. And there was an awful lot of, we're gonna stick with the schedule, stick with the schedule, stick with the schedule. Now, I think most people looked at that and said that schedule's not realistic. You know, once you're in this thing, you gotta let it go. However, what is in the schedule right now is that presentation is now, first time I'm here, in August, was supposed to be the beginning of June, and things like that. So we know the schedule slipped, but if there's any way you can encourage the city to take some of their time and update the website, the last mention of the design challenge was actually in February. They haven't even put any news about the, you know, the design teams coming in and all that kind of stuff. And I think that is, you know, part of the rationale for this by the city council was to help alleviate some of the frustration that people in the city, the residents feel towards all this change, all this kind of stuff going on here. But the lack of communication and scheduling is making that worse. And it's nice that the schedule is going to come out, but encourage the city if you can. This is not your job, I know that, but encourage them to update the little bit. It's on the news in February. It just looks like it's gone nowhere. And it's a huge
I
source of
appreciate your
frustration,
feedback. I'll certainly share that with our PR division.
especially if they want to try and get the public really excited by all this stuff. You've got to bring them along, because this lack of information is really detrimental to the process and to a lot of people who are waiting. Happy to have an update and find out when those dates were.
Absolutely.
The first time anybody has publicly said when that process is now going to happen, that was supposed to happen at the beginning of June. So thank you for your update.
Absolutely.
Thanks for comment.
We really appreciate that.
Any other questions? All right. Let's head on now to new business, 7A, Community Enhancement Grants.
Thank you for coming. Okay, so this is a grant through the State Historic Preservation Office. And so they do two grants. They do a certified local grant, the CLG, and then the Community Enhancement Grant, which is CEG. And we've always historically participated in the CEG grant for our historic walking tour brochure. But we right now have a few boxes full, so we're feeling pretty good about our inventory. And we also have a vision of updating that and how we can engage like graphic art with that too, which we'll talk about later. So I was trying to think about what we can marry to this opportunity, and it's not the most challenging grant, and it's $2,500. So, you know, where's the balance with that? And I spoke with Jennifer about the vision and shared the pattern book, and she was over the moon excited about it. And she's a great strategic thinker. And she thought, you know, looking at your master plan and thinking about digital technologies, and she's heard a lot of feedback from people that they love the brochure, it's beautiful, but a lot of people just throw it away. And so if we could focus more with the pattern book and getting the surveys online and working within the digital technology scope, that would be a wonderful use of funds to apply towards this project. So that would mean that the $2,500 would go to an official project with hiring a ArcGIS expert to help us develop a story map. And a web page that can be linked onto the official web page or other sites such as the museums. And when you talk about ArcGIS, it's kind of like a Google map. And there'll be like different highlights of potentially like amazing examples of homes that are on the surveys, let's say, like great examples. All of the pattern books can be on there, and it would be this incredible high-level resource that people can use, linked to like a QR code, right? Or whatever the newest technology will be. I heard the other day that QR codes are out. I don't know. I can't keep up. So
They were I was banned from doing just a QR only program at my last show. Cause like we got so many complaints from people for not having a physical program.
okay, well, there you are.
It was overwhelming. I was like, okay, printing it is.
Down. So I'm excited about this. And the other thing will be, I'll be working closely with the GIS tech. And so we'll all be trained on how to do story maps through GIS and so forth. And what that means is in our next phase, which will be getting all of like public art collected and put on a map, and how do we kind of do walking tours of public art and highlight all of that. I'll be ready to go. So I think this is great. Do you all like the idea of applying for this grant for the purposes of activating technologies for historic preservation? A lot more load off of you, Rick.
I think it's great to bring in like, even like our generation and younger would be great to have that involvement and ease of access. So I
I
think
think
it's
that,
great.
yeah, the ease of access and having all the information in one place and be able to distribute it easily. However, I do like the paper ephemera as well. So I feel like there's a balance.
Yeah,
that
you
we
have to
can
have
do,
best
but
of both worlds.
This technology definitely, I think, is necessary.
Inclusive.
I would agree.
Any other questions or comments on that?
We'll show this real quick. QR codes are back.
Thank you.
They're even better.
Wow, they're artful.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah. AI is doing some amazing stuff.
Oh,
That's part of it.
awesome.
It's like, it's an exciting world, but it kind of scares me too. I'm scared of the
Agreed.
robot.
We
But
We look to you, Rick, for the
Yeah.
latest and greatest.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing, you guys are such amazing experts in each particular field. And so I'll always like be tapping into you guys and showing you all like, this is what we're doing. What do you think? Because I think of you guys as like the highest level of these different areas. So it will be wonderful to have you guys all guide us.
All right. All right, if there's no other questions, let's move on to 7Bs, the visit from the State Historic Preservation Office.
Okay, so I've sent you guys quite a few emails about it, and I was just looking for my, excuse me, I wanted to go back to that original PowerPoint presentation for you guys, because I think it's really, well, first of all, do you guys have any questions about who is SHPO? And I mean, I'm over the moon about the visit. I think you can tell I'm really excited about them coming.
It's gonna be fun and great.
These are the experts with historic preservation, and I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 second, because I think it will be great for you guys once again to see the layer of where SHPO sits within here we are, within the world of historic preservation. So 1966, everything, all these cities were getting bulldozed for new, modern. This was an official act within the federal government, legislation was passed. for historic preservation. And then all of a sudden you have all of these different codes that went into play. And these, it's really interesting. So as we're working with the tribe, they really like stand by these sections too and talk a lot to them. Section 110 is about sharing the history. And section 106 is to ensure that anytime federal funds are being used in a project, there's an official observation to understand if that land has any cultural significance associated with it from a archaeological standpoint. So whenever I think of culture, I think of like our first people, but also the community culture as well. An example of that was the architectural dig archaeological dig that was done in the Sand Creek area from a cultural standpoint. So you have, so you also have like the National Registry of Historic Places, and grant programming that goes into play to help support a lot of these programs. And then the Advisor Council for Historic Preservation. So every state has their own historic preservation office. And that office is full of experts in all of the different fields. So remember when I came to you guys all and I was like, we're so amazing. Just because, but also like we have experts on our commission that make up all of the 5 qualifications for the Department of Interior standards for historic preservation. So they will connect us to different architectural historians, anthropologists, archaeologists, just historians in general to help us achieve a lot of our planning. So for instance, when we want to go do a survey on a neighborhood, they can connect us to a consultant in our area that can officially do those surveys. The same goes with putting a building on a national registry. So there is one person at SHPO that we can connect them to that will help guide them through that process. Generally, you can do your own nomination, but it's a pretty extensive process. If you were to hire someone to do the consulting for you and write it up for you, it would be about $7,000 to $10,000. So it's just something to think about. I recently, I was excited. The new owners of the Long Shot contacted me and they're interested in having that building be individually registered to see if it's even contributing. And I kind of guided them through the process. And right now that's something they're interested in, maybe for the future. So the beautiful thing was I was able to connect her to the museum. And really what she wanted to know is like, what's the history of my building? And the museum does an incredible job of doing a deep dive into and creating this packet many times for these building owners to know more about the history of their building. And she was over the moon about that resource. So I love that we have federal, state, and local with the museum resources to help these individuals know more about their building and figure out how they want to move forward. So this, again, what are the things that this Idaho State Historic Society does? So and Hannah, you can, I know you were just there on a visit, you can add to this too. The Idaho State Historical Society, they have their own museum. They have their own archival collection. They have their own office, so they maintain all the records and they help support different individuals with preservation, and they have their own historic sites program as well. So different things that the office in particular does, they conduct surveys, they conduct their own surveys as well. And they also are the repository for every survey that has been done. So that surveys that the city embarks on, that surveys that ITD does. So I'm going to be working with SHPO, with our GIS team and their GIS team to download all those surveys on Sandpoint, which will be an important resource for us and the museum too. They recognize historic properties, so what are eligible and what are not eligible. Interesting question. What if we have a current contributing historic structure that no longer is contributing? Between all of us, they do not actively take those off of the registry, the time involved and what good would that do? You know, so that's more of just the community talking to the public about the changes that at one time contributing structure to the National Registry went through and how, you know, and what its journey is now. This was an interesting thing. They also have their own historic preservation plan. So they have their own master plan and they update that every 6 years. I thought that was fascinating and I'm happy to give that to you guys ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to.
Perfect. They provide grant funding, so that's the CLG and the CEG. They have a CLG program, so that is a certified local government. There are only 40 in the state of Idaho. We are one, and that's essentially, there's different qualifications. So you have to have a historic preservation commission. You have to, you know, actively have a plan for how you're going to carry out historic preservation in your community. Being a CLG is a great thing because it is their job to help support us in our endeavors with historic preservation, guide us through processes, connect us to consultants and so forth. Maria, she's Rochelle. I hope I said her last name correct. She's brand new to SHPO. She just oversees CLGs. She'll be coming along with Dan Everhart. And Dan has been there forever. And I'll talk more about him in a minute. They also do education, training, and advice too. So Dan is, so the preservation world, especially within each state, is a really small world. So from this official like state entity that is governed by the federal government, you have all of these wonderful grassroots nonprofits, such as Preservation Idaho, who runs Orchids and Onions. That's the organization that Steve Garvin always talked about. He's on the board of. So this is an award program for great examples of preservation or examples that are not so great. Dan Everhart, who is with the lead of SHPO, he actually, he's so funny. You'll really enjoy him. He is on the board of Preservation Idaho as well. So sometimes it can get a little confusing, but if you have questions about Preservation Idaho, he certainly can answer those questions. So what I just want to make sure is that this is just an incredible opportunity for all of you guys to meet them. I've never met them before. And so I blocked out here in this room of chambers an hour for you guys to hear them kind of talk a little bit, but I think most importantly, it's going to be a really great Q&A session. And I've been trying to expand my thought on, do we want this to be open to more community members as well? And I talked to Jennifer about that, and she felt like it was an important to have more of an intimate moment with our commission with them. Because we are embarking on such an important preservation moment right now in our history. And so we're certainly going to be talking about I'll be filling them in on the downtown waterfront competition. And I know I'm going to have a load of questions that I want to ask them and get their opinion on, and also understand next steps too. So I want you guys to have all the time to be able to ask them what their ideas are on anything you can imagine with historic preservation.
What time will that meeting be?
So that meeting will be at, sorry, let me look on my calendar.
You have 9:30.
9:30, thank you.
And what was the date?
21st.
21st, and I scheduled that for about an hour, but we could probably go over a little bit. Any questions or further information needed for this? Perfect.
I look forward to their visit. It's gonna be amazing to meet them in person and glean all the knowledge we can.
Huge opportunity, and they're so excited for us, and they're already saying, you know, we have grant funding for preservation plans and consultants for ordinance changes and all those things. So those are the things that I'll want to know more about. So and I know Jennifer already has an understanding of the need for preservation and what those action plans will be, but I think anything we can do to support her and information would be great.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, well, let's head on to 8A, around the room commission and staff general announcements and comments.
I just have a quick one from LPO rep. We're gearing up for auditions for our, I can't believe I'm saying this, 4th main stage show in Canada. We're doing Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. So auditions are gonna be next Monday and Tuesday with callbacks on Wednesday. So if you go to our website, you can find an audition slot, or if you know of anybody that's interested, there is a part for a young one between the ages of 8 and 12. So if there are any young ones who want to be Daisy, that would be really fun.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Our wonderful leader is going to be joining me for the museum's fundraiser on Saturday at the Hive. We're doing a presentation and performance about the dark side of Bonner County history. So that'll be in the afternoon if anyone is interested in joining us for that.
I can't wait to be back on stage with you.
I did forget about the Panda. I'm hosting and putting together a garage sale on Saturday, 8:30 to.
Oh, that's right.
3.
Times of Canada?
Yeah, a whole bunch of just going through all the storage, so.
The
if
deck
anyone
and porch look amazing.
The what?
The
I
deck
know.
and the stairs look amazing.
Took a long time to do, but.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
Congrats.
So yeah, if anybody wants to go through some random stuff. There's lots of, there's so much random things, I can't even.
Random things. to
Yeah.
say, but-
Yeah. Not that enticing, but come on by.
Hey, I saw some cool projectors in there.
Yeah.
That
I-
were like from way back in the day.
Yeah, I don't know, if- yeah, I think Doug is gonna bring one of those to sell.
Nice.
Alright. Oh, also, don't forget, Art Walk is Friday from 5 to 8.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I'll be down at the museum deal. Woohoo.
Which is such an amazing place to shop. Oh my God.
All right, is there any other question, comments?
I just like to, tell everybody on this pattern book. We worked on it as a small committee, but we would love to have input from, the greater committee and stuff. So whenever Heather's in a position to make it available for you guys to read and give suggestions and stuff like that, I think it'd be wonderful to have, a little broader set of eyes on it.
Absolutely.
So,
And what I can do is when we get to stronger stop moments, I can send that out and share that. And I appreciate you mentioning that.
And get that in front of architects too.
Great idea.
For the infill and stuff like that, it's in front of their minds.
I love that.
I've got to run to get to a meeting at 10.
All right.
Thanks,
thank you,
Judy.
Perfect. All right, well, if there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Right on time, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna make one comment after meeting adjourned.
Which